Lesson 4. How do you register in TISAX portal? Okay, we have now looked at what TISAX is and what its benefits are. Now, let's briefly create the organizational preconditions to be able to start the project. At the end of this page, you can also download a checklist that you can tick off one by one. Step 1. Register in the ENX platform. The ENX, European Network Exchange Association, is an association of European vehicle manufacturers, suppliers, and other organizations within the automotive sector. This organization is responsible for the continuous maintenance of the TISAX standard, as well as the organizational aspects around it. The ENX Association operates the ENX TISAX portal. The first step on your way to a successful TISAX assessment is the initial registration of your organization in the portal. The ENX portal is the central hub for all organizations that apply for TISAX labels. In order to be part of the TISAX world, you need to register. You may not be able to register for your organization because your role in your company does not allow it. Please refer to the questions on the registration page. Does your role allow you to accept the general terms and conditions of the ENX? Do you know at which location the ENX network access should be built? Do you know who at your company will be the contact for technical topics for the ENX network access? Do you know your first communication partner, usually your partner who requested you to get an ENX network access? Do you know the details you need to see on the ENX invoice? Once you can answer yes to all questions, please start the registration process. In case you are still hesitant, please get back to us. We can help you navigating through this step. Please note, during the registration process, a contractual relationship may be established between your company and ENX Association or other organizations, which may be chargeable to you. Please make sure you are aware of the costs involved and only enter into this contractual relationship if this is in accordance with the requirements of your organization. The company CertiGuide has no contractual relationship with the ENX Association. Step 2. Download the TISAX requirements document. In this step, we will visit all TISAX requirements, take a look at how they are organized and written. Later, we will find out which of them you will have to implement. The TISAX requirements are in one single document that can be downloaded from the ENX portal for free. Here's the website. Please download the following document from said website, VDA Information Security Assessment. This link will download the official TISAX requirements Excel file to your computer. It contains all the requirements that TISAX can impose on your organization. Please note, the ENX Association may choose to release a new revision of the TISAX requirements without notice at any time. There is no newsletter informing about upcoming releases or whatsoever. However, usually the ENX Association will allow you to be TISAX certified against an older revision of the requirements Excel file. Now please open the downloaded Excel file. We will go through it together and take a quick look around so that you will feel comfortable later. When you open the Excel file for the first time, please switch to tab Cover. It's displayed at the bottom of your screen. Fill in the details of your organization. Please make sure that you fill in exactly the information that you received during your registration in the ENX platform, see Step 1. Some information may not be known to you at this point. For example, the date of the assessment. Leave the respective items empty. Now, we are going to take a look at the three main requirement categories. You will find them in the three orange tabs: Information Security, Prototype Protection, and Data Protection. Step 3. Visiting the requirements. Information Security. Let's navigate to tab Information Security. In this tab, you can find approximately 50 single requirements, organized line by line. Each of the requirements has a unique 3-digit number, for example here, 1.1.1. For each requirement, you will find further information organized in columns. Let's go over these columns here for requirement 1.1.1, maturity level. This is the degree to which an organization can fulfill each requirement, ranking from 0 to 5. We are going over the maturity levels in detail later in this course. Reference documentation. Reference documentation. Later, you can add names of documents or links to documents that demonstrate the fulfillment of this requirement. We are gradually filling in this table column as our project progresses. Note that some column headings are in German language. This is probably an oversight in the translation. Feststellung, Prüfergebnis, finding, assessment, result. Assessment auditors can enter the result of their assessment into this table. Understandably, we leave this column blank. Control question. This is the central question in an assessment, audit of this requirement. When assessing to what degree the requirement is implemented during the TISAX assessment, this is the initial question that you are going to be asked. Objective. The text in this column describes the goal of the control described by this requirement. It is about showing what is to be achieved in the first place. Requirements. Must. This describes what the organization needs to do in order to successfully implement the requirement described in this line. You will find a bullet point list in this table cell. Items with a plus in the beginning are first-degree items. Those with a minus are indented below the previous item with a leading minus. Requirements should. This describes other things that the organization needs to implement. At this point, the question arises whether the should parts of a requirement must also be implemented by your organization. The answer to this question can be found directly in the Excel file. Simply click on the Definitions tab. There you will find the following regulation. Principally, the requirements indicated in this column must be implemented by the organization. In certain circumstances, however, there may be a valid justification for non-compliance with these requirements. In case of any deviation, its effects must be understood by the organization and it must be plausibly justified. Therefore, please assume that in the course of our joint project, we will also implement the should parts of each requirement. The hurdle to omit should parts is quite high. We must assume that your auditor will require you to implement them and that failure to do so will result in a clear deduction of points. Additional requirements for high protection need. For some requirements, there are additional requirement items in the event that the organization classifies itself as high protection needs. We'll get into exactly when this is the case later. Additional requirements for very high protection need. For some requirements, there are additional requirement items in the event that the organization classifies itself as very high protection needs. Again, we'll get into exactly when this is the case later. There are a few more table columns, but we will omit them now because they are less important for your TISAX project. Step 4. Visiting the requirements. Prototype protection. We now move on together to the second orange tab, Prototype protection, and look at how the requirements are organized here as well. The table columns are similar to those in the Information Security tab, but not quite the same. There is also a numbering, a maturity level, a control question, an objective, as well as must and should requirements. The same applies to these as to their siblings in the Information Security tab, which we discussed together in the previous step. Further to the right, however, is a difference in organization. Here there is another table column, namely additional requirements for vehicles classified as requiring protection. The requirement items listed here are only to be implemented if an organization actually has complete prototype vehicles on their property. All in all, you will find approximately 20 single requirements lines in this table. Here too, we will spare ourselves the explanation of the other columns because, just like in the Information Security tab, they are not so important at this point in time. Step 5. Visiting the requirements. Data protection. We now move on to the last tab, Data protection. This tab is simpler than its two siblings. For one thing, there are only 4 individual requirements here, and these are not divided into must and should requirements, nor are they grouped according to normal, high, or very high protection needs. Summary. Let's briefly summarize. There are 3 tabs in the TISAX Excel file that contain requirements that an organization must implement. Information Security tab, Prototype Protection tab, Data Protection tab. Within the Information Security tab, the requirements are grouped based on the protection needs of the organization, normal, medium, high. Within the Prototype Protection tab, the requirements are grouped according to whether you have entire prototype vehicles on your premises or not. And finally, within the Data Protection tab, there is no further complexity, only a handful of requirements. In the next lesson, we work together to find out exactly which tabs and which requirements your organization needs to implement.